Well, good evening, this is Houndog Steve wishing you a very pleasant evening, and I thought I'd do a bit of a vlog and catch up because I really haven't made that many videos this summer so far, and because, as you can imagine, it has been a really crazy year. And I have been basically spending the whole year prepping. I've been finishing off some of the projects around the house that really needed to get taken care of. I got my roof finished off, I got the kitchen finished off, and well, please take a little tour of my humble abode. It's quite small, and it's compact, and I think it's a perfectly manageable space for someone who is entering retirement. And it's really more of a cabin, condo, cottage kind of thing, and so it's very easy to take care of. Here we go. So here we are. This is what I've been working on this summertime, is finishing off the last part of my kitchen. This has been a 4-year project. The uppers, this has all gone in sections. Each year was a different section. And basically because every time I took something off that was originally installed, I had to completely rebuild behind, so I had a good solid base for everything to be attached to. Anyway, we finally put these last 2 sections in, and I can highly recommend drawers. And I took the time to line those drawers in cork. It's a nice finish, and it just, yeah, nice finish. So all I have to do is the backsplash now, and putting in a new window next year, and there we go. But I can't tell you how fantastic it is to have a full countertop again. I've basically been working on a half countertop for the last 4 years because, yeah, either one side or the other was being worked on. Very happy with the gas range. I actually have a very nice little house. It's 900 square feet, and this area forms a kind of a T. This is my office area, shower, washroom, sink. I'll tell you what else I did do this year. I had this installed. This is a propane driven demand hot water heater, and they are absolutely incredible. And as you probably know, your hydro bill is a huge part of that is hot water heating, because that hot water tank is on all the time. And now this tank only comes on when you turn the hot water tap on. So I'm saving lots of money on my hydro bill. Then I have a very small laundry room. It's very compact. You see, this house really is much more like a small condominium. 1.5 bedrooms. And of course this is the dining room. This is the dog's bed. Jasmine has gotten to the point now where I just leave that open at night time, and she has free run of the house. We've had no accidents for about 3 or 4 weeks now, so I am very pleased about that. So this was part of my kitchen here. This that I was using as a worktop, and I've just moved it into here because it makes an excellent worktop. I covered that with cork, and I can do all kinds of projects on there. It's nice long. It's actually it's a door that I cleaned up and converted. Anyways, you'll see with the open plan that the wood stove is very effective in here. I have a fan going there, and boy, that blows the heat all around the house. And then hallway, spare bedroom, yes, and very small bedroom. It's 10 by 10, 10 by 11. It's a very small bedroom. But this whole situation is absolutely perfect for a single person or a couple. It is a 1.5 story, and so up this trapdoor up here is another room about again 10 by 10, and you certainly have to be sitting down around the edges because you have the roof peak is up there. But yes, you can certainly turn that into a bit of an office or what have you, so that you don't have to be sitting on top of each other all the time. But this is incredibly easy to heat. As I say, the open plan, well, my glass there is just allows a good airflow. Got a great fan up here. But I am a pretty simplistic kind of guy. I'm non-materialistic, and most of the stuff that I have is more of a memento. Not really worth anything per se, except to me. You know, like that woven basket is from an old flame of mine, and one or two collected pieces. There's a stone in there that was painted again by another friend of mine, and I started collecting the meat grinders. So none of this stuff is really worth a huge amount, but it certainly has sentimental value for myself. Anyway, that's what I've been doing. It's been finishing my inside space this year, and the kitchen was the last part to be done, and so I can now focus on these little finishing touches, and next year we should be looking good. And here she is, my little baby. She's not so little anymore, and she likes her settee. You know, maybe when I was a younger guy I might have been a little bit upset about having a dog on the furniture, but you know what? After what we've been through this year, frankly, I don't give a flying ah. So she can sleep up there, she's comfy. I'll tell you one thing, she doesn't actually stay up there too long, because, here, let me just take a little look. Can you see that? 85 degrees in here. That's the wood stove for you. This room is the hottest room in the house, and it's only when we get down to about -25 that might dip down to, you know, 75, 76 or something. But this wood stove is it's slightly too large for this house, but I'd rather have it too big than too small. But of course, as you can imagine, you know, this year has changed my plans completely, accelerated some plans. You know, maybe I should have, you know, moved before on some of these things, but you know, when there's no pressure to move, then you tend to just keep on doing what you're doing. And I think all of you, and I would you know, basically urge all of you to try and make some plans going forward, to assess your situation and see what are the right moves for you. So basically, as you know, I'm a barber, and I'll be moving my barber shop to my property. I'll be building a 10 by 10 room out in my backyard. I have a huge backyard, plenty of space to do that, and of course 10 by 10 you're allowed 110 square feet without a building permit, although I do have a Crown Land patent and it shouldn't be an issue anyways, but you know, why ruffle feathers when you don't actually have to? And so this is something I should have done a long time ago. It makes complete sense, and I guess by showing you some of my planning, I hope to give you basically a few ideas of maybe how to go about your planning, because you know, this is a difficult situation, as we can all see. Many people's work situations and home situations have changed. It's been incredibly hard financially on an awful lot of people, businesses included. My business has dropped by about 75%, you know, which you know, right now I'm barely covering my overhead, and I am just basically carrying this through until I get it on my own property and I can drop that overhead and we'll work out what kind of normal goes on from there. But I'm pretty certain people are still going to want to get their hair cut, and personal grooming has been around for so long, I really just can't see it going out of style overnight. Yeah, some people can buzz their own hair, but I'll tell you, I've done plenty of fix-ups over the years, and even a brush cut, which you would think is a simple haircut. You can't believe what a mess people can make when they really don't know what they're doing with those clippers, and clippers can take hair off in an awful hurry. And yes, that's why the salons are scared to death of the clippers, because they really, like, if you don't know what you're doing, oh my god, I can take it down to zero pretty damn quick. So that makes perfect sense for me. I've got my greenhouse here. I'm growing a lot of my own food. I have a display area in the front. Part of my plans anyways was to get a greenhouse operation going. And I think I'm going to be selling shrubs. I'm collecting shrubs now in my backyard basically, and I'm going to be taking cuttings from them in the springtime so that I have plenty for sale in 2022. Now this is, we're long-term planning here. It takes a little while to get things organized, but because I can cut all my overhead by having my shop on the property, I can continue with what I'm doing, working only 2 or 3 days a week, and still have a sort of an income. Well, if I've got no overhead, that's all cash in hand. It'll be an okay income to supplement my pension, and thank goodness for my pension. But as we're seeing, you can't depend on that either in these uncertain times. Anyway, listen, before we go on, I just want to play you a couple of clips. They won't take very long, and they really they help me to make a point that I'm going to make. So, okay, here we go. Let's take a look at those.
The COVID-19 crisis has shown us that our old systems are not fit anymore for the 21st century. It has laid bare the fundamental lack of social cohesion, fairness, inclusion, and equality. Now is the historical moment, the time, not only to fight severe virus, but to shape the system for the need for the post-corona era. We have a choice: to remain passive, which would lead to the amplification of many of the trends we see today: polarization, nationalism, racism, and ultimately increased social unrest and conflicts. But we have another choice. We can build a new social contract, particularly integrating the next generation. We can change our behavior to be in harmony with nature again. And we can make sure that the technologies of the fourth industrial revolution are best utilized to provide us with better lives. In short, we need a great reset.
This pandemic has provided an opportunity for a reset. This is our chance to accelerate our pre-pandemic efforts to reimagine economic systems that actually address global challenges like extreme poverty, inequality, and climate change. Last week, our government committed to investing more in international development while supporting developing countries on their economic recoveries and resilience. And on that note, today, I can announce that Canada will invest $400 million more in humanitarian and development funding, which will go directly to trusted partners on the ground fighting COVID-19. Our government is committed to investing even more in the years to come. In addition, we will continue to advocate for extending the debt service suspension initiative. We will also work on ensuring the special needs of small island developing states and other vulnerable countries are taken into account. Building back better means getting support to the most vulnerable while maintaining our momentum on reaching the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the SDGs. Canada is here to listen and to help.
Okay, so now when you hear words like that coming from Klaus Schwab and from Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and I've heard plenty of others from the WHO to the World Bank, Boris Johnson, all saying using similar words, you know, the Great Reset. Okay, and the book that Klaus Schwab has written is so, it covers every base. Okay, so this book, even though it was published this year, and it's on for sale on Amazon, you can buy it. It's not a conspiracy theory. You can take a look at it, and but when you see the absolute, you know, the span and the reach of this book, it obviously didn't happen this year. It's been planned for an awful long time. Now here is the Great Reset on Amazon.com. And as you go through the titles of some of the sections in this book, some of the chapters, you can see how well thought out this has been. They've covered just about every detail. Macro reset, conceptual framework, 3 defining characteristics of today's world: interdependence, velocity, complexity. Economic reset, economics of CV19, uncertainty, the economic fallacy of sacrificing a few lives to save growth, growth and employment, economic growth, employment, what future growth could look like, fiscal and monetary policies, deflation or inflation, the fate of the US dollar, social reset, inequalities, social unrest, the return of big government and the social contract. Yes, I think the titles of the chapters are scary enough. Geopolitical reset, globalization and nationalism, global governance, the growing rivalry between China and the US, fragile and failing states, environmental reset, CV and the environment, nature and zoonotic diseases, air pollution and the outbreak risk, lockdown and carbon emissions, impact of the outbreak on climate change and other environmental policies, technological reset, accelerating the digital transformation, the consumer, the regulator, the firm. Who is the firm? This is like the big firm, you know, the invisible, and of course Klaus Schwab is just a classic villain from 007, isn't he? Contact tracing, contact tracking and surveillance, the risk of dystopia. Fancy that. Micro reset, industry and business, micro trends, acceleration of digitalization, resilient supply chains, governments and business, stakeholder capitalism and ESG, industry reset, social interaction and de-densification. Is that like depopulation? So how are we going to interact if we're de-densified? Don't you just love how they come up with these opaque words to obscure what they really mean? We all know that if you have a less dense forest, it's because you cut down a whole bunch of trees. Behavioral changes, permanent versus transient, and resilience. So you can see the kind of scope that they have covered in this book, and you know, if you look through and you know, read the book, it's only $10. You will see exactly, and read between the lines. Read between the lines. As I say, social interaction and de-densification should be. Is that when you hear people speak like this, and they have a plan that has been well thought out to cover as many possible angles as you can think of, and of course there is a whole other plan. I'm going to actually link a video down below from Adapt 2030, and but there is another plan to patent every living thing on this planet, if you can believe that. Every bacteria, fungus, insect, human, seed, it doesn't matter what it is, it will be patented. And if it's patented, it means that it's owned. And what Dave Devine explains in his great video is that what's going to happen is that when you buy a seed, which is patented, you can't keep the seeds from that seed. That will be against the law, and the government will legally be able to come in and confiscate all of your equipment and all of your property. So farmers, especially subsistence farmers, are going to be in huge trouble. They will not be able to save seeds. They will not be able to, none of us will be able to grow our own food. We will be completely beholden to the people who sell seeds. They will give you a choice of eat the mass-produced processed crap out of the supermarket, or pay an absolute fortune to eat your own organic food out of your backyard. And of course, you know, as the Ice Age farmer, I will link that to the soybean crisis. They're planning, the elites are planning, part of the Great Reset is to get rid of farm-raised meat. So we will all be into Soylent Green in short order. Anyway, my point is, as I say, this is a huge gamble, this is a huge plan which has been set into motion, and whether it turns out or not, whether they've got all the bases covered or not, or whether they can accurately predict, you know, really what humans will do when they're put under extreme pressure, is, well, you know, we don't know. My point being is that the trigger has been pulled. This is a one-trick pony. When that trigger has been pulled, because the changes that they intend to bring are so dramatic, so draconian, that in the end, you know, when we look back, everybody will regret, I can assure you, that we got suckered into this and pulled into this dark, dark world of surveillance. And, you know, you can see where it's going. You can see the minds of these people. When you look around you, what do you see? Fear, depression, suicides, drug overdoses, anguish as parents and grandparents can't see their children or are separated from their children. You know, we've gone back into lockdown in Toronto 3 weeks before Christmas. You know, small businesses have been shut down, and Costco and the big box stores, Walmart and so on and so forth, are open and free to operate. And the Premier actually tried to justify this by saying that with a big box store open, you have to make fewer trips. So basically, there is no doubt in my mind now that Doug Ford has thrown all small business overboard, and you're on your own. And in fact, we're all on our own. As I say, once they pulled this trigger, they cannot go back. They have to move forward with this plan, and it has to go ahead now. And so all of the things that they need to do to put this in place are going to happen. And there will be no going back to anything like normal as we knew it pre the outbreak. The inoculation thing is being rolled out in the UK as we speak. Now they say it won't be mandatory, but you know, we all know what is going to happen from one of my previous videos is that they won't let you have a life. And that's why I'm pulling in my horns. I'm bringing everything to my own home, my own property, and hopefully, you know, I can still function. I can still survive all of this. And so basically I can make it through the winter period. It'll be tight, there's no doubt about it, because I'm barely covering expenses in the shop, if at all. I mean, it's just really slowed down, and it's not just me, you know, it's everybody. So what I've been trying to do, because of course, you know, we're all wrestling with what is going to happen, what does the future look like. Now we will go back to some kind of interaction. You know, there is some point when people will just weigh the risk against having to go out, having to function. And when enough people reach that position, then things will surely change, because as much as these elites seem to think that they have control of the situation, and they may in many ways, there's still an awful lot of us and not very many of them. Now in Canada, for example, we have 35 million people, and tops we have ready to go police and armed forces, 170,000 personnel to control 35 million angry people. And the anger is building. I went onto the Halliburton Kawartha Pine Ridge's website, the health unit, And for the first time, there is a big statement at the top of the website in block capitals that says no angry phone calls, no abuse, you will be recorded, reported, and threats will be turned over to the police. So I'm assuming that because that's just gone up in the last couple of weeks, that they are getting a lot of really nasty phone calls. And you know, I'm hearing a lot of issues in the store. I'm hearing of increased suicides from dentists who are being asked for dental records. I'm hearing of wives, grandmothers, who are becoming sorely depressed because they can't see their parents in nursing homes and they can't see their grandchildren. And this, you know, everyone knows, every man knows when the grandchildren come along, man, grandma's eyes just light up. It is such an important thing to them. And of course, you know, for grandpa too, you know, you're passing along your line, your lineage, your heritage, and of course, the more energy that you can put into the raising of your children and grandchildren, the better those children will turn out, the more productive citizens they will turn out to be. So the trigger's been pulled. However this will turn out, we have yet to see. But things are not going back, and so we have to prepare. And as I say, I've tried to make decisions that will work either way. You know, say for example next March some miracle happens and all of this just evaporates and you know, we just go back to regular living. Well, then my plans will work there too. If we go into, well, whatever we go into, I think my plans are good. Now these are just for me, and everyone will have to assess their own lives. Okay, everybody will need to decide what is going on in their life and how they can move forward. Maybe you're working at home, maybe your job's come to a complete standstill and you've been laid off. You have to now consider how you are going to generate income. Do you need to up your skills? Start making those moves now. Don't sit back. I mean, I think that's probably the biggest thing that happened for me this summer, is realizing we're not going back. Because if you believe we're going back, you will still continue to, it will prevent you from moving forward. There will always be that hope that there'll be an inoculation, but you know, I'm hearing now it was supposed to be November, now it's March, and I heard just last week that it's going to be now probably the fall of 2021. So I wouldn't be holding your breath. This Pfizer inoculation that they're rolling out in the UK right now is still undergoing trials. And I don't know if you realise this, but the trials don't end until 2023. Okay, so by taking this inoculation, you are part of an experiment. You are part of the trial situation. And I think you need to know that. That is one of the reasons that I will not be taking the inoculation. These inoculations take between 5 and 10 years to develop, if ever. You know, our flu inoculations every year change because the kind of pathogen that starts flus changes all the time. They can change within a single season. And so the flu inoculation is really somewhere between 10 and 40% efficient. That's it. So if you can't do that, how are you going to do this when there is a completely, supposedly new variety, a new pathogen, and in 6 months you have put something together and you want us to be part of that trial? I don't think so. I don't think anyone has to sign up for that. Okay, and I think you need to be aware that that is the case moving forward. Now, this is not conspiracy theory, and here is, you know, the governments are indemnifying Big Pharma. In other words, they have no responsibility in any of this. I mean, can you imagine the government indemnifying a car manufacturer saying that they are free from all liability from any accidents leading from a mistake or error on the part of the manufacturer or design team. It's interesting when you sort of switch it over to something like that, you immediately see that we would never tolerate that. We would never accept that. And so considering that the government has just settled the thalidomide cases in Canada, that's 2018, 2019, those were settled, okay, they started in 1960. So 60 years later. So that's the kind of time scale you're looking at if anything goes wrong with this inoculation. If you happen to be that unlucky person who happens to have some severe side effect. So, you know, you have to weigh this up. You have to assess, you know, your own personal risk and whether that's going to work for you. Certainly I am going to wait. Regardless of consequences, that's just the way it is. I don't feel that I trust, given the history of thalidomide, and that's an interesting history. Go read that. Go read the history of thalidomide. Doctors were giving that out. There is about 1 million people in North America, 1 million mothers who received thalidomide as a free sample, and they were never part of the compensation because it wasn't a prescribed drug at that time. It was merely a handout, and we don't know the extent. We don't know the extent of the damage that was caused by that. So that's the way you'll be treated by your government. Look at the army. Look at the compensation cases in the army. Look how long they take to resolve. So if you're prepared to run that risk, please be my guest. That's your choice. It's your body, your choice. But I mean, I think you need to know that if something is being indemnified, you're basically taking all of the risk and liability on your own shoulders, because most of you at our age will not survive to see a settlement in your lifetime. So that's really what's been going on. I hope to make a lot more videos going forward. I've got the winter off now. Jazz is doing really, really well. As you can see, she's grown like a weed. By golly, she is such a fantastic dog. She's really starting to settle. She's just sleeping on the floor now as I'm doing this video, and I'm hoping early next year to be able to take her into work with me, and that she can be, greet customers and so on and so forth. Like I say, I fully believe that the plan of the globalists, the technocrats will fail. It sounds grand. Yes, it sounds awfully grand, but you know, you just can't. Humans will not live to those standards. You know, you'll either wipe out humanity, or you know, it'll just completely come undone at the seams. And judging by the work that I'm seeing done by governments, council, senior civil servants, the engineering, design firms, and so on and so forth, basically is so flawed it's unbelievable. You know, so unless they got a new form of money, they're going to bankrupt themselves. Things will not work. They will basically slow themselves up with so much bureaucracy. And that's one of the biggest issues we have going on today, is there's just so much bureaucracy, you can't cut through it. It takes so long to achieve anything. It's just by the time you get the permit, it's gone, the moment's gone, the money's gone. The city of Quarter Lakes is being sued by so many developers right now because it just drags its heels on all of the planning process. And like I say, you know, the city of Quarter Lakes is basically where ideas go to die. Okay, and at this present time, it's got even worse. The councillors have handed over all authority to the CAO, so we have the top civil servant, the overpaid bureaucrat, is making all the decisions, and council's just rubber stamping. So this will not work out very well. So you have to plan to be more sustainable, more rugged, be mentally strong. You know, be ready for this, be mentally prepared for this, and let go of the notion that we're going back to any kind of normal. Now, I made a video before on Bitcoin and which of the Bitcoin, gold or silver, which of those would shine the most going forward. I am still a Bitcoin bug, and of course the price is still fluctuating, but it, as I say, it will go up, and it will be a hedge against inflation. It's not financial advice, it's just what I'm doing. And of course I'm by no means a big investor. Please, you know, I am a very small fish in the Bitcoin ocean. But it's like I say, you don't have to bet the farm, but as a hedge against inflation, which is one of the things that I think that we're going to go into, is hyperinflation, because these people just do not understand money. So you have to be prepared on every front. You have to be prepared to stay calm. You have to be prepared to forgive those people who are going overboard on this whole situation. You know, the shaming and this kind of stuff. You have to basically stay optimistic and try and stick with people who have a like mind. I know that my friend group has contracted quite a bit, but you know, my friends now, we're all very supportive of each other, and we do remind ourselves that we are not going crazy at all, and that it is a crazy situation full of contradictions. The area that we're in, we have approximately 170-200,000 people in Halliburton, Kawartha Lakes, Pine Ridges district. Take a look, this is taken right off their website. 0 probable cases, and yet we've gone to a yellow zone. Go figure. How could you go to a yellow zone when you have 0 cases? You know, so the madness reigns supreme. Masks, I've read studies by the CDC, you know, that say masks don't work. You know, Fauci has been so incoherent. First this was no big deal, then it was a civilization ender, then masks are just psychological props, and now they're the gold standard. Kids are the biggest carriers and they shouldn't go to school, and now they should go to school. Well, make up your mind. You know, how are we to make any kind of decisions with incoherent babbling that we've been seeing over the last 10 months? Anyway, hang on. I think it's going to be a dark winter. I really do. I think there's going to be a lot of businesses fold, and I think we're going to see a lot of people really struggle to get through the next 3 to 6 months. I don't know if this has been any help to any of you, knowing my situation and what I'm doing and some of the decisions I'm trying to make, but I would strongly suggest, if you're with somebody, luckily I'm by myself, I just have my pup there to consider, but if you're with a partner or children, I strongly suggest that you sit down at the kitchen table and you lay the cards on the table and you assess your situation as you are and what you can do going forward into your new normal. I hate that term because it's you know, one of those buzzwords going around, but it will be. You know, everybody will move into their new normal as the dust settles and we see how this thing rolls out. I'm sure they're going to see a lot more demonstrations on the street as people find themselves more and more financially hard pressed. Okay, so please stay calm, be brave, wait for the signs, and if you've enjoyed this video, if you find it helpful, please like, comment and subscribe below. That's pretty important these days with YouTube messing around. And in the meantime, this is Houndog Steve signing off, wishing you a very pleasant evening, and we'll talk very, very shortly. You take care now. See ya. Bye.